So Mark Carney and Doug Ford just agreed to fast-track one of Canada's biggest resource projects by promising there'll be less red tape, and I'm over here like, wait, when did these two become best friends? I mean, Carney literally just became Prime Minister and is already doing deals with Ford? The same Ford who spent years fighting with Trudeau's Liberals? This is like watching your high school frenemies suddenly become business partners. Buckle up, because we're diving into the Ring of Fire, and no, I'm not talking about that Johnny Cash song, although honestly, it might be the perfect soundtrack for this political drama. Welcome back to Canadian Insights, your daily dose of Canadian politics without the boring parts. I'm bringing you the tea on what's happening between Ottawa and Queen's Park, and trust me, this one's spicier than a double-double with extra drama. Here's what just went down. Carney's government and Doug Ford's Ontario are signing a deal that's basically the political equivalent of saying, hey, maybe we don't need 17 different people checking the same homework. They're calling it the one project, one review, one decision approach, which sounds like something a frustrated project manager came up with after their 10th Zoom meeting of the day. The goal? Cut through the red tape faster than a pair of scissors at a ribbon-cutting ceremony and get massive projects moving, especially the roads leading to the Ring of Fire. Now, if you're sitting there wondering what the Ring of Fire is, no judgment, because it sounds like either a geological formation or a really intense hot wing challenge. It's actually this mineral-rich region in northern Ontario that's basically sitting on billions of dollars worth of chromite, nickel, copper, and other resources that make mining executives salivate. We're talking about one of the most significant mineral deposits in Canada, possibly North America, and it's been sitting there like an unopened birthday present for years because, well, bureaucracy. The problem has always been getting to it. These communities up north are fly-in only, meaning there are no roads connecting them to the rest of the province. Webequie First Nation and Martin Falls First Nation have been pushing for roads that would link their communities to the provincial highway system and open up access to the mining potential. And let's be real, when your only option for getting groceries is a cargo plane, you're probably pretty invested in seeing some infrastructure happen. But here's where it gets interesting. Building roads in Canada isn't like deciding to add a new Tim Hortons location. You can't just grab a shovel and start digging. There are environmental assessments, impact studies, federal reviews, provincial reviews, consultations, more consultations, and then probably consultations about the consultations. It's like trying to plan a group dinner with 15 people who all have dietary restrictions. Everyone needs to weigh in, which is actually important for protecting the environment and Indigenous rights, but it also means things move slower than a Zamboni in a parking lot. Up until now, Ottawa would do its federal impact assessment, Ontario would do its provincial environmental assessment, and these two processes would sort of dance around each other like two people trying to pass in a narrow hallway. Both doing basically the same work, checking the same boxes, asking the same questions, just with different letterheads. It's the governmental equivalent of having two people independently verify that yes, water is indeed wet. So Carney and Ford looked at this situation and apparently had the same thought: this is ridiculous. Their new agreement says Ottawa will eliminate duplicative work and sync up with Ontario's timeline. According to sources, the feds have committed to finishing their impact assessment on the same schedule as the province's environmental assessment. Webequie and Martin Falls are saying they want to start building these roads in 2026, which in government terms is basically tomorrow. Now here's where I need you to appreciate the political chess game happening here. Mark Carney just took office as Prime Minister, and one of his first major moves is cozying up to Doug Ford, a progressive conservative premier who spent the better part of the last few years having public disagreements with the previous Liberal government. Ford and Trudeau's relationship was about as warm as a January morning in Yellowknife. They fought over carbon pricing, healthcare funding, immigration, you name it. But now Carney walks in and suddenly it's all handshakes and partnership agreements? This tells us a few things. First, Carney's playing pragmatic politics. He knows that to get things done in Canada, especially big infrastructure and resource projects, you need the provinces on board. Second, there's a real economic pressure to develop the Ring of Fire. With global demand for critical minerals skyrocketing because of electric vehicle batteries and green technology, Canada's sitting on resources that the world desperately wants. Third, and this is key, both Webequie and Martin Falls have been incredibly vocal about wanting these roads. This isn't some external government forcing development on unwilling communities. These First Nations are leading the charge because they see this as an economic lifeline. But and there's always a but in Canadian politics, not everyone's cheering. Other nearby First Nations aren't on board with the plan. Some communities are concerned about environmental impacts, about how mining activity might affect their traditional territories, about whether the promised benefits will actually materialize. It's a reminder that Indigenous communities aren't a monolith. Different nations have different priorities, different relationships with the land, different visions for their future. This is where the one project, one review approach gets both interesting and complicated. On one hand, streamlining the process could mean faster economic development, jobs, infrastructure, and opportunities for communities that desperately need them. Webequie and Martin Falls aren't exaggerating when they say these roads could help lift them out of poverty. When you're dependent on air transport for literally everything, your cost of living is astronomical. A head of lettuce can cost like $15. Building roads isn't just about mining access, it's about connection, affordability, opportunity, and self-determination. On the other hand, environmental assessments exist for a reason. They're not just bureaucratic busy work designed to annoy developers. They're there to catch potential problems before they become actual disasters. Northern Ontario's ecosystem is delicate, and the Ring of Fire area includes wetlands that are crucial for carbon storage and biodiversity. Rush the process too much, cut too many corners, and you risk making mistakes that can't be undone. It's like speedrunning a recipe you've never made before. Sure, dinner's ready faster, but is it actually edible? The genius or the gamble, depending on your perspective of this new approach, is that it's trying to thread that needle. By having federal and provincial governments coordinate instead of duplicate, theoretically you can maintain rigorous environmental standards while cutting the timeline. One thorough review is better than two redundant ones. But the devil's in the details, and we won't really know if this works until we see the actual implementation. What's also fascinating here is the political optics. Carney's sending a message that his government is about getting things done, about being business-friendly, about not letting perfect be the enemy of good. This is a Prime Minister who came from the world of central banking, from the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, and is bringing that efficiency-minded approach to governance. Meanwhile, Ford gets to look like the Premier who successfully pushed Ottawa to be more reasonable, who stood up for Ontario's interests and won. Both of them walk away from this signing ceremony looking like winners, which is rare in politics. And let's talk about timing for a second, because 2026 is not far away at all. If these First Nations are serious about starting construction in 2026, that means the environmental reviews, the consultations, the approvals, all of that needs to happen at warp speed by government standards. We're talking about compressing years of process into months. That's ambitious. That's bold. That's also potentially concerning if it means rushing conversations that need time and care. The bigger picture here is what this deal might signal for other major projects across Canada. If the one project, one review model works for the Ring of Fire roads, you can bet other provinces will be lining up asking for similar arrangements. British Columbia might want it for LNG projects. Alberta might want it for pipelines. Saskatchewan might want it for potash mines. Carney might have just opened Pandora's box, or he might have found the key to unlocking Canada's resource potential in the 21st century. Time will tell. What I keep coming back to is that this is a really Canadian story. We've got federal-provincial cooperation, or at least an attempt at it. We've got Indigenous nations taking the lead on their own development. We've got environmental concerns clashing with economic needs. We've got regional politics, resource extraction, infrastructure challenges, and competing visions of what reconciliation and partnership actually look like in practice. It's like someone took every Canadian policy debate and threw them all into one big Northern Ontario stew. So here's where we land. Carney and Ford are signing this deal Thursday in Ottawa, and it could genuinely change how megaprojects get approved in Canada. Whether that change is for better or worse depends entirely on execution. If they can actually streamline bureaucracy without sacrificing environmental protection or Indigenous consultation, that's a win. If this becomes an excuse to rubber stamp projects without proper oversight, that's a disaster waiting to happen. What do you think? Are you team let's build these roads and unlock economic opportunity, or are you team slow down and make sure we're doing this right? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I genuinely want to know where Canadian Insights viewers stand on this. And hey, if you made it this far, you're clearly invested in staying informed about Canadian politics, so smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because we're dropping videos every single day breaking down exactly what's happening in Ottawa, Queen's Park, and everywhere in between. Canadian politics doesn't have to be boring, and you're proving that by being here. I'll catch you in the next one, where we'll probably be unpacking whatever new chaos our political leaders cook up next. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, in Canadian politics, the only constant is that nothing stays constant for long.